Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and today we've got to talk about a Spellbinders sale. This thing is huge. It's 20 pages of deals and some of it is worth shopping now, but we're awfully close to Black Friday. So we're going to talk about how the sale is structured, what items I would wait on because there's a decent chance that deal will get better soon. And then my 5 favorite collections that are on sale for 50% off that are probably worth shopping right now. I'll add in some video tutorials along the way. So if you do shop those deals, you've got inspiration right here. All right, so here's the sale homepage. And when I scroll down, there's tons of really great products here. But when we look at the discounts, it doesn't look that great, right? $27 to start with, it's $20.25. That's 25% off. So here's what's going on. If the product is on sale, it's a stamp, a die, something like that, and it was released in 2024 or earlier than that, it's probably 50% off, okay? The exception being embossing folders are only 40% off. Clubs are only 25% off. But if it came out in 2025, it's probably 25% off. Is that worth it? Maybe. Some of these collections have never been on sale before, and some of these are holiday collections that you may want to use to create your holiday cards this year. For example, this is the Winter Wonderland collection. It came out in July. I adore this. Look at those trees, you guys. Oh my goodness. If you wanted to make cards with this collection, it's the first time it's been on sale. It is 25% off, especially if you're picking and choosing individual dies or stamps. This might be worth it. And it's nearly the entire collection on sale at that price. Another collection you may want to consider that's only 25% off are the Cheerful Chirps. This again is the first time this collection has been on sale. And you guys, it's so cute. And it sold out immediately. It was sold out at Spellbinders. It was sold out at scrapbook.com. At Simon Says Stamp, it was just gone. So it's only been back in stock for a month, maybe 2 months. And it's on sale. So I might grab this now if you had been kind of waiting for it and didn't realize it was finally back. When I link to dies or stamps, I'm going to link to the whole collection so you can see everything instead of linking to a bundle. So if you scroll down beneath the video, you'll see more or show more. And from here are my top 5 collections, right? And we'll get to those in a minute, but those links are going to take you to the whole collection. Additional collections at 50% off. And then down here, just a few at 25% off that may be of interest to you if you've been looking for it or waiting for it, because for a lot of these, it's their first time on sale. There are a few collections that are hard to categorize. So if I search from newest to oldest collections, right here is the Jack of All Trades. This came out in January and I love this one. This one has about half of the items are on 50% off. So $29.99 down to $15. That's for this beautiful Better Press plate. This is also a Better Press plate. Right? But when I look at some of these other ones, the Kaleidoscope Noble Suits, these are gorgeous. They're so stunning. Those are only 25% off. And so I hemmed and hawed, but I put that collection under the 50% off collections because some of it is 50% off. But for the most part, collections are split either 25 or 50. It's also worth noting that 3D embossing folders are on sale for 40% off, not 50% off. Club embossing folders are a different story. So these are sort of regular collection 3D embossing folders. That's not a deal breaker for me because I would rather let go of that extra 10% off and bundle it with free shipping than wait for a deeper discount. They almost never go on sale under 50% off. And then I'm paying an extra however many dollars to get it shipped to me. When it comes to my favorite collections at 50% off, we are starting with the Essential Holiday Collection by Lisa Horton. We have tags and Better Press plates. Don't forget you can hot foil them. Ornaments, this beautiful frame. But let me show you what I love so much. So here's our tag die. But when you start looking at the samples, do you see these beautiful, stunning backgrounds? That is this collection of Better Press plates. Okay, so there's 4 separate plates here where you can get these great backgrounds that will fit perfectly into these die sets. Look at this. I love this one that they've turned into a present, but that polka dots all the say for every season, I just think it's so versatile, and everything in here is 50% off. So let's make a card using these festive ornament dies. They're on sale for $8.50, down from $17. I love that you can make this little like drippy figgy pudding. You guys, let's take a look. For card number 2, I'm starting with the stitched star-filled background. It's a Spellbinders die. Friends, I ran this through my machine 3 times because I did not want to have to poke out all of those teeny tiny little holes. I think I had to poke out 2 by the time I was done. I just taped it to the plate to make sure that it's not going to shift as I'm running it through multiple times. I don't stitch. I don't stitch on cards. I don't stitch with a sewing machine. I'm bad at it. So you better believe we're not stitching this one. But I love what peeks through these holes. They are just big enough that I have some black glitter cardstock. It's from Michael's. It is cheap stuff. I am not using up my really good glitter here. And I am going to lay this panel on top of that. On camera, it's hard to see, but in person, you get these little flashes of sparkle in there that are amazing. Instead of plain rectangles, I'm using the nested postage labels and tags. So I have a postage label and then a piece that goes right inside of that. And then this is Emergency Card Essentials die set number 1 that I designed for Trinity Stamps. And I cut some 1/4-inch strips that are meant to be strip sentiment dies, but I was using it to use up scraps of that black specialty glitter cardstock that I couldn't fit in my trimmer. So I am just gluing together my postage labels, and then I will add my glitter strips onto my strip of silver cardstock. It's a little thicker than the original sketch. We've just changed the proportions a little. That black postage label is 4 inches by 2.5 inches instead of 3 inches. And so I had some extra space to fill. So the silver matte cardstock that I'm adding those strips onto is 1.25 inches. It just keeps the proportion of everything really nice. My Trinity strip dies are exactly 4.25 inches. So I left the silver cardstock a little bit long, and I tried to butt the black cardstock up against just one edge, and then I'll trim off the excess later. I have a tendency to cut my card panels a little bit big, and I wanted to make sure everything was going to fit nicely. I'm using my tweezers to kind of audition where I want our focal images to go. And in the end, I settled for here. It's not even centered necessarily, but it's going to work out nicely and leave me plenty of room for my sentiment on the left. For our focal images, these are the Lisa Horton festive ornament dies that came out from Spellbinders last month, I want to say. So Lisa Horton is the one who made the interference inks that are like selling out everywhere. They're a pigment ink that have some shimmer in them. Well, her die collection that she released is so stinking cute, you guys. You're going to see pieces of it coming up in videos from me because I really love this one. I am just decorating 2 of the ornaments very simply. There is a circle die, and then I've used some black cardstock and some glitter cardstock. There are little toppers to put on them, and then even this little chain so they can hang down. The details are fantastic. And this is a pretty small die set. I love when you can get something really cute and has a lot of versatility, and the price point isn't too bad. So I am trimming these off at the top. This might have been easier if I had decorated the white panel before I added it onto the postage, but I didn't think about it at the time. So instead, I'll just trim off little slivers until everything feels right. I'm gluing my chain onto the front of that silver topper, but you could put it behind, right? You could use a string instead. There's lots of ways to do this. I thought about making it so that these could swing a little bit, but that felt awfully complicated for a video where I knew I was making 4 or 5 cards. On this next one, I'm paying particular attention as I lay down my ornaments to where my sentiment's going to be. I want to create a visual triangle. And so the first layout that I had really fought against that principle. So I wanted my sentiment sort of on the bottom left, which means that this on the far right needs to be sort of in the middle. And that's how I figured out how high I wanted them to be. I have a little bit of 1mm thin foam tape. This comes on a roll from scrapbook.com. It's my favorite because it's not thick enough to change the postage. And I've used some black glossy cardstock. I have some from Trinity and some from Simon Says Stamp. I like both of them. My sentiments I printed onto some white shimmer cardstock, and I'm going to punch out "'Tis the Season." There is a die in my Emergency Card Essentials #1 that will cut that out for you, but the punch is faster. So you know me, I'm going with whatever is easiest. So that's our card using the Essential Holidays collection at 50% off. This next one is the Happy Hour collection. This came out not last summer, the summer before. And I want to be clear, there's a more Happy Hour collection as I scroll down that came out October 10th, right? So it's been out a couple weeks. That is not on sale. I know you're shocked by this. I also want to note that the booze cocktail add-on is not on sale. And quite frankly, I can't remember ever seeing it on sale. I have no idea why. The base die sets for this collection are this olive martini, right? There's a little martini glass and all of the add-ons are meant to dress that up, or the sunset in a glass down here. And while they're stunning, I regularly use the pieces from this collection independently. Lately, I've been reaching a lot for this Christmas cocktails add-on. Yes, you can use this to create a little cocktail that's dressed up with a little like Santa belt and a hat, but these are perfectly sized to use for so many different occasions. I put this hat on the new Steamboat Willie dies to create a holiday light up Christmas card. I put this belt on the walrus to make a holiday walrus card. Deck the walrus boughs of holly, my friends. The Lush Leaves 3D embossing folder is also in this collection, and it is stunning. But today, we're going to make a card using the Tropical Flare. Again, it's half off, $10.50, down from $21. This tiny flamingo just slays me. Plus the cherries, the orange, the little drink umbrella. Let's take a look. For my first card, I'm using the Lush Leaves 3D embossing folder. This one's been out since maybe this time last year, and it's just a beautiful, like all-purpose, especially for summer and spring cards, sort of embossing folder. It'll fit half a sheet of cardstock, and I'm going over it with Delicata White Shimmer ink. It adds some shine. It adds a little bit of depth and dimension, and I'm actually recreating a layout from a video last week when I first released this sentiment style. I didn't show you how to make this particular card. I showed you the one that's in landscape. And so I have cut a strip for the right-hand side that is 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm leaving 1 inch of that pattern paper in the background. You could do 3/4 of an inch for the pattern paper, but I had already cut it when I made that executive decision that maybe I would like that strip to be narrower. And I still like it. I think it's cute. Pink and black and white are such a bold pop of color, and I absolutely love it here. That was a scrap of pattern paper that was just left over. It's an embossing folder I've had for a year, an ink I've loved for a very long time. And actually, I'm very curious. Scrapbook.com has a really similar shade of ink that I don't have. Does anybody have it? Do you know how well it dries? I love Delicata because I know if I heat set it or if I just leave it out for a while, it will dry and it will not smear and come off on my hands. But it's hard to get a hold of, right? That particular ink is hard to find. So if you have experience with the Scrapbook.com metallics, I want to know about it. I have these 2 little flamingos. It's from a tiny little die set called Tropical Flare. They're so funny. So I think they were designed to go in, there's a couple of like cocktail glasses that Spellbinders has, but I have only ever used these flamingos without cocktail glasses. I just think they're so funny. I got them arranged on my circles, and these are a little bigger than standard sentiment circles. So the white shimmer one is 2 inches, and then the black one is 2 1/4. And I just used my grid and my sticky mat to pick it up and make sure I'm putting it right back down in the exact same spot. For our sentiment, we're using one of the free printables I've released on my channel. So I'm going to cut on all of the black lines. There are some lighter purple lines that I'm going to skip. Those are optional, but I want to keep the white section on the left of each sentiment so I can tuck it underneath our focal images. When I cut, I start at the bottom and I connect the tick marks, but I don't cut all the way through the top. I try to leave that header intact so I get these flaps. Then I can rotate everything and I still have the tick marks on the side so I can go ahead and connect those. Our mats are 3 inches by 1 inch or 4 inches by 1 inch, which means these sentiments are about 7/8 of an inch thick. They're leaving us just this tiny little border, 1/16 of an inch border all the way around, and I love that. You get just a little bit of something to make them stand out more, but it doesn't take up a ton of space. I love this style of sentiment. I call them tuck strip sentiments for when I'm using a small die cut that might be in an add-on set like this one, right? And I just tuck the sentiment right behind it. I have added my sentiment onto my mat that's 3 inches by 1 inch. You can see that tiny little black border. And then I like to add it onto my focal image, whatever that is, so I can deal with the whole thing together. You want to make sure it's going to fit on your card. I know that sounds really obvious, but these sentiments are much longer than I'm used to. And so while the glue was still wet, I was double checking. But here is finished card number 1. I love how quick and simple it is. My next favorite collection at 50% off are the Tunnelscapes. And this has such an incredible balance of these small elements like Fly Away, where you get a kite and you get a little airplane. And then over here, the perched birds, or down here with the underwater marine life. Those are small, can be used independently of the base dies. But then we also get these really incredible large die sets. The underwater tunnel, for example, is great for creating a little tunnel card, a little box card if you want to, or you can just layer it up on a flat card as well. The tunnel clouds are absolutely stunning and they come with your sun and your moon. You can put a little airplane in there and you don't have to put these into the middle of your card. You can cut it out of the corner or you could cut it out of the side and create some really great effects. Then my favorite from the collection is the rainbow slice, and it creates this little wedge in your card. You can put anywhere on the card that you like. So we're going to make a card using this one. Then we're going to use rainbow slice. This came out last summer, I want to say, and there are a couple like this. There are 4 pieces in rainbow slice that cut out these little slices. I already had one in black in the packaging that I thought was A2, but it's not. So I'm going to trim it down, but in the end, we'll cut a new one because it's not going to line up with everybody else the same way. That's okay. We live and we learn. This collection also includes, I think it's the tunnel clouds, and then there's like an underwater tunnel. They're great for box cards, or you can just do stuff like this where you layer it up in the corner or on the side of a card, and it's so much fun. I haven't played with these since I got them last summer, and I'm really committed to using my favorite supplies and making sure that they don't just collect dust in my craft room. So I am just lining up my panels, right? So here I'm going to hold the 2 together and then I will take the next smallest one and I'll just kind of slide it in there. And I'm trying to make it so that they open up in the same place on the corner, that the points in the middle line up a little bit, but this is so forgiving. The problem with the black piece is that the point on the left is just too far to the right. And so I didn't like the look of it very much. When I got that orange one out, there's just a tiny little sliver at the top. I trimmed it off. No one's going to know. But here I'm going backwards. Okay. So I am lining up my die, and I should have just tucked it right under that pink piece. That might have been easier, but I'll run it through. And now I have 4 pieces that line up beautifully. Look at that. You could do them in all kinds of colors. And the florals come in the same die set, and it's on sale, you guys. They're on sale. There's so much on sale. When I go to line these up, I am really paying attention to the bottom right corner, okay? And then if there's excess on the left or on the top, that's okay. I can just trim that away. So I'll show you the first one and then we'll go a little more quickly through the other ones. But I wanted to make sure you saw that process because it can feel intimidating. I wasn't sure if that was going to be really tricky. It wasn't. It really, really wasn't. So I'll add on the orange one. I trimmed away a little bit of excess and then I'll add this yellow one, but I do still have kind of a gap back there, and I wasn't sure. I played with a bunch of different colors and options off screen, but in the end, I went with some white glitter cardstock. So I'm just kind of flipping over a scrap that I know will cover it. I'll trim it off, keep it simple. I'm going to add glue right around it in a rectangle, kind of a tidy rectangle, and then I'm going to set it aside for a minute. I want that glue to start to set up and get tacky. I waited way longer than it looks like in the video, but that will grab onto that glitter cardstock better because I let it sit for probably 60 seconds. Then I have my sentiment, and it says beautiful birthday wishes. I was thinking specifically of this die set when I put that one together because I made that circle of floral elements ages ago, but I hadn't used it. So I knew this was a really great time for it. I'm adding a second mat here that is just 1/8 of an inch bigger than the first one. So 1 1/8 by 3 1/8. And then I'm attaching that to my circle of flowers. This I decided just to let the circle sit kind of at the point of our colors of our slice. It's called rainbow slice. And let the sentiment cover up a little bit of that because the sentiment really is sort of the point of the card, and that balance felt best. And that finishes up card number 3. Coming in at number 2, favorite collections at 50% off is Nicole's Needlework. There's a bunch in here. My favorites are the Gathering Stitches that creates this beautiful boho rainbow. Do you see that, my friends? So good. And then I also love the faux embroidered spruce and the faux embroidered pumpkin. Let's take a closer look at Gathering Stitches. This die set is half off, $15 down from $30. It cuts a rainbow with different thicknesses for your bows, but then we also get some alternative bows you can put in there and extra pieces to decorate this along with an embroidery hoop. That's why this one is a little more expensive than the others. But when you look at this up close, it is so gorgeous. I just love this one. I think it's perfect for all seasons. Then we have this faux embroidered spruce. It's so quick and easy to put together, right? You have the trunk of your tree in brown, you have this overlay piece in green, and you can dress it up a little bit with some extra little pine boughs. But look at the cards people have made with this. I love this non-traditional color scheme. Super gorgeous, $10.50 down from $20.99. And then we're going to make a Harry Potter inspired card using the faux embroidered pumpkin. I just love this hat. From the minute I saw it, I thought it looked like a sorting hat. So we're going to try that. But keep in mind, I've used this pumpkin a bunch as well. I just think that it's a great size. All right, friends, let's make some cards. So this is the faux embroidered pumpkin. It's a small die set from Spellbinders. And when I saw this hat, you guys, I was like, will it work? Can I do it? I am not an artist. I'm not. So I'm showing you the one I've already done, and I am just sketching in some eyes. They're sort of upside down teardrops. One is right under a deboss detail, and one is right under sort of a cut line. Then I'm adding in the mouth. The mouth is going to go right above the brim of the cap. And there's a little bit of debossing if you were going to add the layers on here. And that's letting me know where I should put my mouth. It's just an upside down crescent, right? I just Googled Harry Potter sorting hat and I'm sort of mimicking what I was seeing in clip art versions of this. Then I'm taking my lightest brown marker and going over all of the cut lines and any of the debossed details that are really emphasizing the shape of the hat instead of trying to tell me where layering pieces might go. Then I will come in over and over again with progressively darker colors, finishing off the eyes and mouth with even a little bit of gray to get them super dark. The lightest shades of brown are still present at the outsides of the eyes and the mouth. And then you can see those lighter shades I'm coming back in kind of at the brim and a few of those other places where I wanted to give it some depth of color. Nothing fancy. I'm not really ink blending. Until here. I am using some walnut stain ink and a small blending brush, and I am just going in around the edges of this hat. It's old, it's dirty, it's ancient, especially at the bottom where we're looking at the inside. This is the plaster embossing folder from Simon Hurley. This is a new one, and I love it. I just think it's so beautiful. And I wanted to give this sort of an antique look. So I'm using my Brilliance Gold pigment pad, and honestly, it was a little too bright. So I just came in with my cloth and I'm buffing that out and softening it a little bit. So it's a little bit shiny, a little bit sort of rustic, dirty looking. I think that goes well with the sorting hat. Then I have this magical paper pad from scrapbook.com. I love this thing. There's tons of stuff in here that is not Disney, just sort of magical, or there's this great stripe pattern or a polka dot pattern. Definitely worth looking, but it's too bright and clean. So I am coming in with some Delicata black shimmer ink. I promise both of these metallic inks dry beautifully and pretty quickly. You're going to see more of that as this video goes on. I just got these and I'm obsessed. This piece measures 3 inches by 5.5 inches. It's that center panel. And now it's a little darker on the edges and there's just a little bit of shine. It's really hard to pick up on camera, but it's definitely there. I'm going to layer that onto a piece of dark cardstock that is just a little wider. So that's 3 1/4. Again, all of these measurements are in the printable. You don't have to write it down. I've done that for you. And the card sketch prints to size. So it's exactly the same as your A2 panel. I am gluing this centered onto my embossed panel. So you can tell there isn't even a whole lot of that gold and plaster showing. It's just a little bit of extra texture, just something to step it up a little bit. I have some 1/4 inch strips that I've cut out using my favorite scrapbook.com dies. You guys know I have this bin where I just keep a ton of strips of cardstock. It's how I use up the end pieces that are hard to put through my trimmer. And I already had Gryffindor colors. So we're going to go ahead and add those on there. But you could pick your favorite Hogwarts house, or you could use this idea and make a layout for a graduation card, right? Go ahead and do the strips and their school colors. And instead of the sorting hat, put some books or stamp an image or use one of our graduation sentiments that came out in the spring. And then here, I just wanted that to stand out a little more. So I cut a second hat from black and I glued it ever so slightly down and to the left. This die set is the Cats and Pugs accessories. And look at these glasses. They are perfect and they're really big. If you check out the other Harry Potter video, I used different glasses from the March Club. I can't remember if it was the small die or the large die, but there's also a pair of glasses in the Halloween wreath add-on that's kind of the same shape, but this big set fit here just beautifully. I glued all of my strips onto a piece of 1 inch cardstock, and then that way I could treat it as a single piece and layer my hat onto the end to make sure it was going to cover up the ragged ends of those strips. And then I'll add the whole thing onto my card, making sure that the strips are straight. It was just easier for me to do it this way, but you could also lay it all out so it looks good and then pick it up with a sticky mat, which you've seen me do many, many times. I'm adding just a little bit of glue behind those glasses, and then we can start working on our sentiment. You guys, this card is almost done. I was struggling with where to put the sentiment, so we're gonna make a smaller one. Here's that Harry Potter kit. Again, there's Disney and Harry Potter and New Home and Weirdo Neighbors. There's tons of funny stuff in here. I want pages 2 and 3 that don't have lines around the sentiments. So I'm gonna tell it custom pages 2 through 3, or I could do 2, 4, whatever pages I want. And then I scroll down in more settings and I want 2 per page. And look at that. It puts 2 of them on the same page and it shrinks them up and makes them smaller. And that's how I got this sheet. So I'm going to just cut this in half, and then I can treat this the same way I would the other rectangle sentiments. So I am trimming and connecting those tick marks from the bottom to the top, but I don't go all the way up. I want these connected by the header, so I have these strips. Then I will rotate and I still have the tick marks on the side to tell me where to cut these. This is not a nice tidy measurement. Normally these are 1 1/4 by 2 1/4, but when they're smaller, that's not necessarily the case. So I'm just adding glue on the back and I will tuck that onto a piece of rectangular black cardstock with even margins on the left and bottom. And then I'll trim off on the right-hand side and on the top until those margins match. And I don't worry about what size is the border. I'm not measuring anything and getting frustrated. I'm going to go ahead and add that with some removable adhesive, and this card is good to go. It says, wishing you a day of mischief and magic. I just love this one so much. Finally, coming in at number 1, my top pick collection at 50% off are the birthday monsters. I know it's been out for a while, but honestly, a bunch of these pieces took a very long time to go on good sale, including this dancing birthday dragon. He is 50% off, which makes him $8.50, down from $17. But keep in mind, here's the whole collection. You have a monster, a panda, you have a little dinosaur. There's all kinds of great things in this collection, and they're pretty reasonably priced. But let's go ahead and dig right in. For this first card, we're using the Heartfelt Thanks and Scallops from Spellbinders, along with this brand new Dancing Birthday Dragon. He's so cute, you guys. I love him so much. The Smart Glasses, which I love. And then this is my favorite embossing folder of the moment. This is the Peppermint Stripes 2D embossing folder. So I have a strip that's 1.5 by 5.5. My dark teal is that large purple rectangle that's A2. And then that scallop that comes from the Heartfelt Scallops really is the same size as that large pink rectangle from our card sketch. It's just that it has scallops on it. So if you don't have this die set, that's okay, right? Use what you have. Do you have a different scallop die set or maybe a stitched rectangle? Whatever you have, give it a try. If you make things and you post them to social media, please tag me. I am on Instagram at Sassy's LLC, and then I'm on Facebook at Sarah Staroska, and I would love to see it. So I took my strip that I cut longer than 5.5 inches because sometimes they shrink up in embossing folders, and I ran that through my embossing folder. I wet it down with a baby wipe, but I probably didn't need to. This is 65-pound cardstock. I'm trying to work through my stash. I still have some old cardstock that's 65-pound that I don't use very often. That's just kind of taking up space. And I was like, I can use it for this strip. It'll work. I put glue all over the back of that guy, and then I used the grid on my mat to try to get that centered. And I'll just trim off the excess with my scissors. You could use a 3D embossing folder here as well, like whatever you like, but do be aware, especially with the 3D, they definitely shrink up. I cut the black rectangle according to the cutting guide. It's 3 by 4.25. But then for the white one, instead of giving myself a 1/4 inch margin, I made it slightly bigger. So it's 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. And it just gives me that teeny, teeny, tiny little frame around the outside. Sometimes I really like that. I also wanted to make sure there was just a little bit more room for my dragon. This guy comes together pretty easily, and I'm going to start by adding his belly and then his tail. I'll be honest, I just followed the colors that were on the packaging because I thought it was so cute. I usually try to switch things up a little bit, but I couldn't help myself. I will say too, if you hear some noise in the background, I'm so sorry. We're in the middle of like some crazy winter blizzard, and my neighbors keep taking turns snow blowing their driveways. Pray for me, you guys. I don't do well in the cold, but here we are. I wanted to make sure I could get this video out for you on time. I am adding his little claws on there. I love how brilliantly this is designed. So there's enough room, like plenty of room, to add glue to little pieces, but still get that color variation as you're building everything. He comes with that teeny tiny present, so I just cut it from some white cardstock and then just the tiniest little bit of gold foil for the bow. And then I'm going to overlap the present with his 2 arms. I wiggled them around a little bit to try to find where I liked them best, but honestly, they look pretty good everywhere. You have 2 sets of wings for this dragon. The larger set is for his body, and then there's a small set that goes on his head. Like, his head is so big. They need their own wings. I have a 6-year-old whose head is so big, they would also need their own wings. And so I think he probably needs this card, or at least a card that uses this dragon. We just celebrated his birthday, so I don't know that this one will make it until next year. I like to pick up the wings with the body to help me with placement. It helps me to kind of see better where things are going. And then when I go to add his eyes, it just cuts holes into his head. And so I cut a little scrap of some white cardstock to glue behind there so that I have a place to put the black parts of his eyes. This isn't getting glued flat to the card, and so it's easier to do it this way than to try to like layer that onto the card. His head gets popped up on some foam. Then on the top, there's a crown that you can add as a little optional piece. In my last video, I used the Dancing Birthday Monster, and he has horns, and so I might try the horns on the dragon as well. I think that'd be really cute. There's also a Dancing Birthday Panda and a non-dancing birthday dinosaur, and the glasses set has glasses for all of them. Even the dinosaur who's turned kind of sideways, there's like a slightly sideways set of glasses, which I think is really brilliant. I'm going to add little dots of glue all over the back of the glasses, just teeny tiny little dots so it doesn't just squeeze out everywhere. And then I'll add those onto his giant head. If you're putting together one of the other ones that doesn't tell you exactly where the eyes go and you want to use the glasses, make sure you're sort of using them at least as a reference while you place the eyeballs. I made that mistake a couple of times, but yeah, you need to make sure that they're going to fit. I am layering up a couple extra pieces for the body just so the whole thing is heavier. The heavier it is, the better it will swing. Plus, it is the moving element, and so I wanted it to be a little bit sturdier. I'm using 2mm foam squares, and I'm just cutting off a little section of it, like a quarter of that square, to stick in the middle to make my element interactive. But if you have a foam dot, go for it. I am all out. I had some for a while. I didn't even know where they were from. If you've got a good source for foam circles, I want to know about it because sometimes that helps. His head doesn't move, so I held the body there and traced a line around it so I knew where to put my foam so that it wouldn't interfere with the movement of the body. And I just added little slivers of the same foam that I used right behind the body to make sure everything lays nice and flat. I'm going to use the strip sentiments from kit 22, and I have one that says wishing you a magical birthday. I felt like my dragon was kind of magical. And these are about 1/4 inch when you trim them out. There's little tick marks to help you get them straight. And then I'm going to layer this onto a strip of cardstock that is 3/8 of an inch wide. And then I cut it to be exactly 3 inches long, right? So it's just as wide as it needs to be to fit all the way across that panel with the dragon on it. I'll flip it over and cut off the excess, and then I'm going to add that below the dragon. When you're adding a sentiment onto something like this, you want to make sure it's not going to interfere with the movement of your interactive element. And so I'm kind of pointing to his tail there. Honestly, I probably could have moved it up a little bit, like just a hair, but not a lot. I have that embossed panel on the background. So I have regular foam tape on the left and right, and then I have 1mm foam tape in the middle just to kind of even everything out and make sure I'm not going to have any saggy parts of my card if I do try to send this through the mail. And then I'm going to do my best to get this centered on the card. In the end, it's not. It's not centered, but it's pretty close. And I don't think anyone is going to notice. That finishes up card number 1, my friends. I love the embossed detail of that strip through the background, and that dragon is just the cutest. All right, my friends, that's a little walkthrough of the Keep It Crafty Halloween sale from Spellbinders, plus tutorials using my 5 top picks for collections at 50% off. Be sure to look in the description box below the video. I have linked both of my emergency card kit playlists. So if you're looking for free printables, ways to be inspired and get some new products without spending any money, that's a really great place to start. But then I've tried to organize for you the collections we talked about and had tutorials for, other top picks at 50% off, and then just a few at 25% off that may be worth a look if you've been sort of wanting some of the newer products that came out this year. This is a new style of video for me, so please let me know what you think of this style of sales video as we are moving into November and sales season. I want to be as useful as possible. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.